Mr. Engineer, faders up.
Got the blues? That's a good thing. It's the Lowdown Hoedown on WDNX, Bowling Green, D93.
Brothers and sisters, I'm back. Sorry I missed you last week, but you know, when the Bengals are playing on Monday night, I have to go be water boy. No, that's not true, actually. I just sat at home and hung out and with the family and kind of recharged. It's been a busy year, but glad to be back tonight. Hope you're doing well. First off, I'm going to let you know that the Lowdown Hoedown tonight is brought to you by the Mellow Mushroom, Southern Cup Coffee and Cafe, All Things Guitar Lesson Studio, Stockton Custom Shop, and Q-Time. And welcome aboard. It's going to be a really exciting, fun night. We got a special guest in the studio, Mr. Bob Beatty. Hello, Bob.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. Let me make sure I got you there. Say that.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, sir. We got you, man. Well, welcome aboard, man. I mean, you and I got talking. JD Seam hooked us up.
Yes.
JD works with Wishbone Ash. He helps some guys out, but he also in an Allman Brothers tribute band.
Yes.
And we were, I don't know, it was about the time that my little side band, Rufus Huff, played a gig with Wishbone Ash. We got talking. He wanted to know if I knew you. I knew about this book. And I already had it. I had the book.
Yeah, that was really awesome to hear, actually.
It's been a crazy year. I have had to read it really sporadic. I mean, you know, because we've had some illnesses in the family back home. But when it worked out, I said, yeah, well, I've got the book already. So, I mean, you know, and the funny thing is...
Give me some time to read it and let, you know...
And also, I had you know Alan Paul.
I know Alan very well.
I know
Alan endorsed my book. I helped him with his. He did a couple early reads on mine. He just a great dude. I know a guy who has 3 bestsellers in a row, New York Times bestsellers, Alan Paul. 2 of them on the Allman Brothers. And he's a friend of mine, and I'm proud to call him a friend. He's a good dude and writes great books on my favorite bands.
I've known Alan since early 90s Guitar World days.
Yep.
And we have a great memory. Headhunters played CBGB's around 1991, Halloween night. He was there. He was there at night, and I think a lot of Alan. Alan actually called in back around June or July. It was around June. And I haven't talked to him since because he's been busy. He's been on the trail doing his, you know, you guys both been busy.
Yeah, he's a, you know, I'm a year ahead of him with this particular book, but he's like 15, 20 years ahead of me in terms of what he's doing. And yeah, I follow him on socials, and I think he was just on another tour out West Coast, but he's maximizing the contacts, which is great.
Somebody saw me hold this up a while ago, this little Christmas ornament. You made that, didn't you?
Yeah, so I did, and it you know, I have. It was a pandemic thing about I watched artists really have a hard time, particularly musicians, right? People that I follow, and you know, all of a sudden your livelihood is completely gone, and I realized, you know, be more intentional about how I spend my money and on art and creating things. And I love Christmas ornaments, love Christmas. We have like 4 trees in our house full of ornaments of just memory. And I do this as a way, so it's a peach, of course, you can see, and you know, what I do is I like to take stuff out of the stream, so I'll go to thrift stores and garage sales and just buy crap and do more with it so it doesn't get thrown away, turns it into something. So you something tells me you understand about doing little things and putting them out into the world because you're compelled to and because you want to share with the world.
Well, absolutely. That's what this is all about. I've been doing this 22 years, and it's just a labor of love. That's why I do this. And, you know, like one week I might go, man, I think people should hear Howlin' Wolf a lot this week, or Howlin' Wolf, Lightning Hopkins, wherever you want to, you know, or it could be, tonight we're going to be in Allman Brothers world. And I know my friend Billy down in Louisiana, he was asking about this. He actually gave me a little piece of Duane's shirt.
It's the Griffin shirt, the peacock shirt, the one he wore on Layla. That
absolutely.
When it got ruined, got put in the dryer. Apparently, they cut it up and gave pieces. I know Derek Trucks has a piece of it.
Sonny Landreth, I believe.
Yeah, that stuff's significant, man. I mean, and it's meaningful stuff to people. And I realize, you're talking about this isn't the Shroud of Turin or something like that. But I think for Allman Brothers fans, like that is he is.
I'll tell you
very important.
I just shared this story with Otis Gibbs, and you'll know Otis. I'll direct you to his podcast.
Absolutely.
So, because we got talking about Duane. And tonight, folks, it's all about the Allman Brothers. First off, we'll tell you, Bob has written a great book called Play All Night, Duane Allman and the Journey to the Fillmore East. And that's the catalyst of what we're doing tonight. And this is making us all come together. The stars lined up. But we were talking about Duane Allman's guitars and what they mean to us as musicians, Allman Brothers fans. It's like you said, the Shroud of Turin, but I remember years ago when I played with Ronnie McDowell, this would have been like 1988, they had a 10-year celebration for Elvis's passing at Mud Island. So we're up there doing our rockabilly set, and all of a sudden, people started rushing the stage, trying to jump on the stage, screaming. I turned around, and there's this lift. It brought up one of his acoustic guitars and his capes. So it was kind of the same thing we're talking about in a different. To those people, that's it. Now we like Layla, the gold top Les Paul, right?
Yes, that's the one.
But there's three. There's two burst and the gold top,
and then that SG that's in that.
Yes, of course.
Which I really do think that's the most significant of all of them because that was Dickey's guitar too. So that's right. The one guitar that we know of. It's a 61 Les Paul officially, but we always call it an SG.
That's right.
That has this lineage. And then, of course, the great Derek Trucks plays Artist Proof number 4, given to him by Galadriel. Now, come on, that's like Coming Down from On High or King Arthur taking out. Like, you can't script this. I call it mushroom magic just because the Allman Brothers symbol is a mushroom and just these little connections.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. And anyway, it means... Duane Allman, come on. He was, him and Dickey together were magic. Different. When they came together, it made this one big special sound. The whole band did. I did see them live with Warren and Dickey back around 1992. And I never will forget. I've seen them several times.
Part your hair, that band.
Well, it's something. It's a sound that rolls off that stage.
And it's that was the first band I saw. Alan Woody and Warren Haynes had rejoined, joined. And you might have known Alan from your time around.
I never met Alan. I've known Warren since 1982 when he was with David Allen Cole.
Okay, so it's funny, I was saying I was listening to Headhunters and I heard some of that similar influence as Warren had when he was doing those things. It's really interesting how as I delved into your stuff, just in preparation to meet you and come up here, how parallel. And I saw that band in 93. It's in the preface. I walked in expecting nostalgia, and I left. I got on the bus in November 1993, November, I think it was the 13th. I think it's the 13th, might have been the 12th, but I think it's the 13th. But I got on that bus and I never got off. I was just like, this is, and it's different. It's never the same as that original band, but they bottled that as best they could and kept it going a long time.
Yes. Each song every night was an adventure. Unless it was Midnight Rider. I don't know. They never done that too much early on, did they?
No. That was actually really, Midnight Rider shows up a lot in the 90s when they got back together in 89. It really didn't get played a lot with Duane, nor even in the Brothers and Sisters era.
But the funny thing is, man, you take a Elizabeth Reed or Whipping Post or some of those songs, the beginning is set, and man, get ready, because in the middle, it's going to go somewhere different every night. That's why they were so great. Had that, had a John Coltrane, Miles Davis adventure to it.
That was their intent. That was their model. It's funny, the book's been out a little over a year, and I've got a pretty good social media presence at Long Live the ABB. I might as well plug it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's on the the everything from Facebook to Instagram to YouTube to my Substack, which is really where I'm doing a lot of writing. But I've gotten some pushback from folks every once in a while, jazz heads and stuff. They're not jazz. They're not. And I think the thing to say is, I deconstructed this. I mean, I literally had to find a way to say it in the book. And it's a very small piece of it, but trying to explain what it is. And it's the jazz impulse or the jazz aesthetic. It's how they approached it. They weren't jazzer. Only J-Mo was a jazzer.
Right.
Strict, an absolute jazzer.
Right.
The rest of them they learned how to do it by the way you learn jazz.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's the mindset and approach about being in the moment and what you do impacting what the other five guys are doing and vice versa.
They listen.
100% of the time. They're incredible listeners.
Yeah. 2 ears, 1 mouth. They listen big.
And with all that power, being able to move, and that record, At Fillmore East, which I've worn out.
Well, yeah, the Fillmore East, and that's what we're going to delve into right now. My experience was in high school. Richard and Fred Young bought a copy of it. It was the pink
Capricorn.
Capricorn Records. And we would loan each other albums. I'd loan them NRBQ, maybe Cream or whatever. And they loaned that to me. And I put the needle on. I didn't know what to expect. So Statesboro Blues kicks on. And I never heard slide guitar like that. Never heard that. And then when the groove kicks in, to me, it sounded like psychedelic roller skate music. Like, I mean that as a compliment.
Yes.
It's just that groove. I could, it reminded me of the skating rink in Edmonton on Saturday night, but a psychedelic experience.
and it really, I mean, it's funny even there that you can call it that, because then the rest of the record, it just continues, in my opinion, to get more psychedelic in spots. Yeah. I mean, there's parts of Whipping Post that, are just going all, well, the whole thing. But you're right. Everything's different.
It's an adventure, a musical adventure. So let's kick into a couple of tracks. Bob Beatty is with me, and check out his book while we're playing this. Get on the internet, check out Play All Night, Duane Allman, and the Journey to the Fillmore East. And we're going to get you prepped for it.
Let's do it.
Right. So here's Blind Willie McTell wrote this. Nothing like the way these guys did it. Of course, Taj Mahal with Jesse Ed Davis had a big impact on Duane doing it the way he did.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically Taj Mahal's arrangement that he put from Blind Willie McTell. This is also a song that convinced that where Duane decided to play slide. Like, this is what inspired Duane to pick up a Corticedin bottle that was sitting that he had for a cold he had or might be in pain. Greg has told several different stories about this over the years, but he had a Corticedin bottle, washed off the label, picked it up, and learned how to play this. By the way, people didn't love it either at first. His bandmates really thought it sounded...
No, they ran every time he put a slide on. But I read the story how he wrote Corticedin, and they sent him some, and I did the same thing. They sent me a box.
Are you serious?
I don't know where the box ended up.
Those things are worth like $50, $75 a piece.
I know. I have a box somewhere stashed back. Yeah.
Eric.
This would have been like 1977.
Oh, okay.
This wouldn't be the 60s, but there's still glass.
But it's been gone a long ass time, is what you're saying.
Well, here's Statesboro Blues from the recorded, I hope I got this right, July 6, 1971 at the Fillmore. And... no, I'm wrong. It was released July 6, 1971. It was recorded March 13th, and this is from the early show. So let's give it a shot. Hope I got the right track here. You're listening to Lowdown Hoedown, D93, Bowling Green's Classic Rock. The Allman Brothers Band here on the Lowdown Hoedown, D93, Bowling Green's Classic Rock from At Fillmore East, released July 6, 1971, recorded March 12th. That's Done Somebody Wrong, written by Elmore James, I hope.
are correct.
Well,
100%.
yeah, there we go. Okay, good. We'll make sure. I didn't put the writers down. Great song. Then before that, of course, we heard Statesboro Blues. And what can you say? That was the first two songs I ever heard by the band, and it really just tore me up, as we say over in Metcalfe County.
Hey,
tore me up, man.
They did a wonderful job. You know, we haven't really set up the record yet, but this was a make or break record for them.
Yeah.
And they did a wonderful job of coming right out of the chute and telling you what's what, you know, with those two songs.
Exactly.
They just, you know, and you didn't have to spend a lot of time finding your way into them, you know, like a Whipping Post or Liz Reed that might take a little while. That's a little later in the record. These songs come right out and tell you who's what's going on.
Yeah, the slide guitar is in the front.
Yep.
Is right in the front. And honestly, in 71, I've heard steel guitar rag. Dun, 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 dun. You know, I've heard people play a little bit of slide, but not like that. Nothing that lyrical or vocal, you know.
Yes.
And as you and I were talking while I was playing, we were just marveling at the harmonica type licks.
Yeah.
Sound like a harmonica.
Yeah, he sounds like he's wailing on harp, but you know, there's other times I feel like actually both him and Dickey, I hear them. It sounds like saxophones, or you know, Miles and Coltrane and Cannonball Adderley, kind of the skits. King Curtis, just that kind of wide open, that tone. It doesn't sound like a guitar. It sounds like a horn, or it sounds like a harp. It's an incredible tone.
Yes.
Through two cranks.
We've all studied that. Both of them got great tones. Dickey's got the sweet tone.
Yes.
Got the nice. There's more country influence.
Total lilt to his playing, I've always felt. Yeah.
Yeah, and from a technical aspect, and what I was told, he played through the 100-watt Marshall, which would be a little cleaner, more headroom, where Duane played through the little 50-watter.
Little 50-watt, but yeah.
Loud. And they compress more. A 50-watt compresses more. If you want to play slide guitar on a Marshall, get you a 50-watter. That's what you need. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure those boys they were either using Altec Lansing or JBL speakers, and they cut the baffles in the back, which took away some of the low end from a regular Marshall's real low endy. Low endy.
That's yes. And I've only played through a Marshall a couple times in my life. I've been a Fender guy, and before my first amp my first amp I blew like within for what it was, from that little cheap set my mother bought me that came with the guitar. But then I got this big old PV Heritage that I used for years. And I never played a Marshall. I always played these combo amps that worked fine for me. And I was never a stage guy with the super loud. But the times I have played the Marshalls, I've struggled with the sound
because they're loud.
And I've never quite gotten to dial them in because I've never had enough time.
They are very loud. Yeah. That's the reason I turned mine sideways. I can't stand to stand in front of it either. They are. The slide, unless it's got the compression working with you, then you really, it gets real brittle sounding. And you got to work with the tone control a little bit too.
I understand Duane had his tone knob rolled all the way down.
I believe it. Yeah. I believe it, man.
So He was wide open on the amp, wide open on the guitar, but the tone knobs
I believe it was way down. Yes. It was way down there. And of course, Clapton did the same thing with Cream with the SG. Now he would take it and put it on the front pickup, roll the tone way back. Like if you listen to Sunshine of Your Love, the solo, that's what they call the woman tone.
Okay.
And so Duane kind of did the same thing in a way.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And then he would work the tone, back and forth a little bit if he wants a little more shrill, But yeah, I believe, yeah.
Masters. And, Duane, you see the pictures. I mean, dude's fingers had to have been at least a third longer than mine. I mean, he had fingers that looked, they were made to play guitar. They're just these, long, lanky fingers. And in fact, the front cover of the book, you can see his fingers really clearly with the slide. You're like, it's no wonder he's a guitar player.
Oh,
man.
yeah. Oh, yes. And there again, I started hearing rumblings about Duane, and probably the first rumble I heard was either in Hip Parader magazine or Rolling Stone. It was something about Muscle Shoals, and they were talking about Duane Allman. He was doing sessions there. Then had some friends that went to the Atlanta Pop Festival, and they come back talking about Skydog. Like, what is Skydog? They really didn't say the Allman Brothers. And then I read about the Allman Brothers, but I didn't hear the first 2 albums. You know, we just never heard that. Everybody in Midcap, we were listening to the Bee Gees and Grassroots. Nothing wrong with that, by the way, people. But we didn't have a real underground
Creed Bratton
scene.
from The Office in the Grassroots, right? Wasn't he? Creed Bratton from The Office was in the Grassroots.
That's right,
yeah,
he was.
So
there you go. Nothing wrong with the Grassroots.
But those first 2 records didn't hit. I mean, no. And they certainly didn't get anywhere away from markets. It was a college, they were a college underground phenomenon.
Exactly. And I remember heard the Fillmore first, and then about a month or 2 later, me and Richard from the Headhunters, we went to Alan Barrett's house, and he had Idlewild South, and he put Revival on, and I heard those little harmonies.
Yeah.
I went, whoa, how cool is that? And then in '72, I started backtracking and buying everything I could. When did Eat a Peach come out?
72.
72?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what your trajectory tracks a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. Even though you're from the South, it didn't break for you when they first broke, but it was like 71, Fillmore East comes out. Everybody's like, oh my God, this is the greatest. In 72, that Clapton anthology with Layla on it was released, and everybody starts to revisit the Layla record. And then Allman Brothers release, so they do Fillmore East, then the Allman Brothers release Eat a Peach, and that's when everybody sort of gets back on, like all of y'all got caught up.
Exactly.
But, they re-released both albums in 73 as beginnings, Capricorn did.
Yeah, that's right.
So another reason to buy. And then Brothers and Sisters comes out in 73. Like, they're just cranking out records.
Yeah.
69, 70, 71, 72, 73.
Yeah.
5 incredible, just fantastic records, right. top to bottom.
Right. Absolutely.
And so it was. You trace it. And then everything else was in real time. Eat a Peach, Brothers and Sisters. You were living that era.
And then we did hear, I remember hearing on the radio, Hey Jude by Wilson Pickett, but I didn't really put it together till later who the guitar player was. And, I didn't know it was Duane Allman. Yep. I just knew, well, it's rocking guitar on a soul record, So,
yep.
And then Duane, but we had friends that traveled to the pop festival and saw him play.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That was the largest audience Duane ever played for. Largest audience that band played for until Watkins Glen, which at that time was the largest audience in history. Yeah. They bookended the festival. They opened it. There's a chance they might have even played more than twice. I mean, I've started to look at how it worked, but they definitely opened the festival and closed the festival.
And didn't Duane go out jam with people during the day?
That's the story, and there's not a lot recorded. The best part, or not best part, but we talked about Corsetum bottle. He lost his Corsetum bottle between Friday and the Sunday show.
Oh no!
He played the Sunday night show, and there's video of it with a broken either wine or beer bottle, and you can literally—it's just like old school. You can see the broken bottle. He's playing "Don't Keep Me Wondering" and Statesboro. It's "Don't Keep Me Wondering." It's on there, and he's ripping on a. Literally just like an old dude sitting in, Parsons Farmer Dockery Plantation playing blues on the porch,
Did they play, there was 2 of the Atlanta pop festivals.
They played the second one, with the one Jimi played, Jimi Hendrix played.
Okay. They didn't play the first one.
They did not play the first one. They attended it.
Oh, okay.
And then if I recall, the Dead played it and borrowed their gears. A very famous picture of Jerry Garcia standing in front of clearly an Allman Brothers road case or amp that they had borrowed to play a gig in Atlanta in summer of '69 sometime. Because, they were kind of kicking around Atlanta still at that point.
That's cool. All right, well, I'll tell you what we need. We take care of some business. We got Bob Beatty here, author of Play All Night, Duane Allman, and The Journey to Fillmore East. It's about, we'll let you talk more about the book. It's all about the Allman Brothers tonight, people. What else would you want? It's your Christmas present from us.
Merry Christmas from Duane.
Yeah, the psychedelic elf himself. All right, let's take care of a little business. We'll be right back with more music and fun and sonic adventure here on the Lowdown Hoedown, D93 Bowling Green's classic rock.
Here, do me a favor.
Yeah, we're going to take a picture here real quick. Yeah. Welcome back to the Lowdown Hoedown. Brother Greg Martin here, and it is 7:38. What's the temperature? 35 degrees. Oh, have mercy. Well, Bob Beatty's here, and we've been warming up the weather around here.
Trying to.
I'm sure the transmitter's sending some warmness out to you people. Some psychedelic warmness. So, man, tell me how you got onto writing this book. Tell everybody.
You know, so the short of it is, I read a book review of another Allman Brothers book out in the 90s. The very first book that came out in my time was called Midnight Riders by a guy named Scott Freeman. And I thought it was a fantastic book.
Sure.
And honestly, I still, because I'm a nerd, an Allman Brothers fan, and really an Allman Brothers historian and scholar.
Yep.
I read it. I've read it multiple times. I think it's a fantastic book.
Years ago.
He did a great job.
Years ago.
Sadly, though, it wasn't super well received by the fans or really by the band at the time. And I think it was a matter of timing. It came out at a time when they were really ascending. It was 1995. The band had been back together with Warren and Woody for a few years and was doing well. And it was a story about a really ugly past, and their break, it really ended. His research had ended, the bulk of it was before they had reunited. So there was a down note to it. And the review said, and it was a fair review, and it said it didn't answer the why. It just told the story. And I think telling a story is fine. This was 95. So we're talking, almost 30 years ago. And I was like, I wonder if I could do that. So that's the short answer. The long answer is that I'm a historian. I've been working in museums for my entire career as an adult. And I have gone to graduate school, got a master's degree, and I decided after my mother passed away in 2012 that I was going to go back and get my PhD. And when I sat down with the Tennessee State historian, Van West, who was my advisor on that project, I said, I want to write a book on Duane Allman. And so it was just, it was almost like an intellectual exercise. It's like, how do I explain what's going on here for myself? Because I was like you, blown away by the music. And it was, I was 21, 22, 23 years old. And it was 92, 93 when I first, really listened to them. Midnight Rider was on the radio. One Way Out, I knew. Jessica, I knew, but didn't know it was them. But the songs that really jumped out at me when I kind of got hip to them were like Blue Sky and Liz Reed and Dreams and Whipping Post. These songs that weren't ever on the radio. It was classic rock, but it wasn't played out.
Sure.
And so for me, it was a matter of how do I explain what's so awesome about this, for myself. The intellectual exercise, the writing of a book, University Press, you got to do more than just say how great Duane Allman is, how great the band is, how great you think they are, etc. And that was the challenge was
there's been
getting
several
to that
books,
point.
right?
Yes. And interestingly enough, we were talking about the Atlanta Pop Festival. That got filmed, and it was supposed to be filmed for distribution, and for 50 years it's been just held up in rights.
So it
issues.
is somewhere in
there is a film.
Okay.
And it has been screened a couple of times. There's also, I don't really know what exists of cut footage and just the standard, because they created a movie that was pretty good. I was talking to the dude about something else, and I said I was writing a book, and I was interested in, when did he have anything I hadn't seen, any footage? And he thought, what are you going to write about? And I kind of told him, he goes, well, I don't think there's anything more to be said about them. And I was like, this was before I wrote the book, and I was like, well, I don't really care what you think. I'm going to try.
Right.
And the bottom line is this. The best way to do it was to look at, really what Duane and his bandmates wanted to accomplish in music. How do we know if they accomplished that? And how we know is the success of the album At Fillmore East. And then breaking down what all of that means in terms of what does the success of that record mean? And really not just the success of the record, but what people said about the record when it came out is, and frankly, I also found throughout what they said about concerts, attending them, listening to the other records. There's a thread throughout, and it is all about, this is a really, 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 really good band, but the records don't quite do it. That's all before At Fillmore East. Right. Or this is a really, really good band. You have to go see them live.
Yeah, exactly.
And this record At Fillmore East captured all of this.
Yes, it did. And as you know, we'll talk about that
so
later.
that's essential request.
Yes. And thank God we got this, and we got expanded versions. And maybe the film, do they have all the Allman Brothers performance?
I mean, that's the question I don't know about Atlanta Pop. Is
Duane
it
was
only
on.
because right now, like, there's video of Every Hungry Woman and Statesboro from their like Friday afternoon set, or I don't know if it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but from the 7/3/70, and then there's that nighttime footage I was explaining where Duane was playing with a broken bottle, but I've seen a couple, but I've never seen footage of their whole sets.
Okay.
There just isn't a lot there's very little out there.
There's some bad footage from Love Valley, of course.
Love Valley that was synced. It was silent film synced, and they've gotten it as probably as good as you're going to see.
Yeah, that's right.
At this point,
That's right. Well, let's jump back into some more Fillmore East music. Let's play perfect Stormy Monday. Well, it's not really stormy out there, I don't think.
it's a beautiful.
It's
but,
beautiful.
But hey, while we're doing that blues thing,
yeah, let's play Stormy Monday, and this is one of the most beautiful renditions. I know that. I just wonder what T-Bone Walker. I'm not sure when he passed, but I'm sure he would love this, and Bobby Blue Bland would have too, because I think they did borrow a few things from Bobby Blue Bland.
I mean, this is basically a Bobby Blue Bland. This came from Bobby's hit, and Duane you'll hear it, gives homage to T-Bone as the originator of that.
Right, and Wayne Bennett type chords. It's amazing. So here we go. The Allman Brothers Band, Stormy Monday Blues here on the Lowdown Hoedown D93, Bowling Green's Classic Rock. Aaron T-Bone Walker, first version I know of, and then, of course, Bobby Blue Bland with Wayne Bennett on guitar did a great version. I'll tell you a version you need to check out. If you can find it, Rick Derringer and the McCoys from Human Ball. It came out in 1968. There is a killer. It would actually precede this one.
It would, yes.
It's killer. I promise you. I would not steer you wrong.
I believe you,
It's
and I will be
live.
listening
It's
to it on the way
recorded live.
home. Live is enough for me.
It's Stormy Monday Blues. They did another version on Bang Records in 65 or 6, and it's okay. But listen to Human Ball version.
Rick Derringer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rick, and it's actually the McCoys. The album's called Human Ball, and there's 2 live tracks on that album, Human Ball Blues and Stormy Monday, and Rick kills it. Listen, let me take care of some business, and we'll come back, and I'll do my ID. We'll talk a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit more about your book and about Stormy Monday Blues, and then we got You Don't Love Me after that. That's going to be 19 minutes.
19 minutes.
Yeah.
Along with Play All Night.
Lots of stuff.
16,
man.
18.
All right, we'll be right back with more Lowdown Hoedown here on D93, Bowling Green's Classic Rock. Hey. We're back to the Lowdown Hoedown. Bob Beatty is with us, and it's all about the Allman Brothers. This is our Christmas present to you. We knew what you needed.
Merry
Don't
Christmas
you just
from
like it
Santa
when we
Duane.
know ahead of time what you folks need?
You need more Allman Brothers.
That's right. You need some psychedelic roller skate music.
Some Merry Christmas, some psychedelic roller skate Merry Christmas joy
Exactly.
from the studios.
Yes. Of course, we just played Stormy Monday Blues, which is beautiful. And I just turned you on to a version by the McCoys.
Yes.
Which it may have preceded, I'm sure the Allman Brothers were doing it, but they were playing at the scene, the McCoys were. And they were hanging around with Edgar and Johnny Winter. And if you guys out there want to go out and find a really cool album by the McCoys, yes, it's the Hang On Sloopy guys. It's called Human Ball. And there was an album before that called Infinite McCoys. And this is after their Bang Records, Hang On Sloopy. They decided they wanted to be real musicians.
A rock band.
Yeah, a real rock band. And so after Human Ball, Steve Paul, who was managing Johnny Winter, he nabbed the McCoys as Johnny Winter's band. And so that's why it was called Johnny Winter but they didn't want to call it the McCoys.
Okay, and that's where Derringer ends up in the band with Johnny Winter.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to my buddy and fellow Kentuckian, Andy Beekler up there in Berea, Kentucky. If he's listening today, he's a big Johnny Winter guy. So
Johnny Winter was great, and I was around Johnny. I had him on the show 2 or 3 times. Sweet. First time we met him, he said, I like you guys. Y'all wear your work clothes. Y'all wear your work clothes. And last time I saw him, he was eating catfish in his trailer. You know,
Johnny is he's a foil for Duane throughout this book.
Yeah,
and it's very interesting. Duane,
he was a great slide player too.
Yes,
and I forgot to give him credit because the Progressive Blues Experiment came out around 68 with Black Cat Bone, and I went, whoa, that's another. Him and Duane both were really pushing that slide, and Rock Hooter.
And that, it was him and, really it was, I think for Duane, it was because he and Johnny were kind of the front and Johnny beat him to the punch a bit. He was somebody Duane was looking toward. Duane knew he could keep up with Johnny. And there's a quote in the book.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He says he's watching Johnny Winter at Fillmore East in late 68.
That's right. And he said, I could take him or something like that.
He said, Johnny's good, but I can cut him.
Yes, exactly. And people, that's what it was all about back then. I've actually read Todd Rundgren say that about Leslie West. Everybody was after it. Now we're just like, oh, who cares? But everybody was after each other.
And it's funny about that too, because I just put this up on Long Live the ABB on all the socials.
Okay.
A quote from J-Mo about this. It said Duane just loved to play, and he'd say, hey, let's go cut some heads. But he wasn't about cutting heads.
No.
He was about playing music. But when it came to Johnny Winter,
he was after
there
Johnny.
was something about, and he was Johnny joined them on stage a couple of times when Duane was still alive. But in writing, when people would ask him about him, his comment was typically, I enjoy his playing way more than his show. And honestly, that's true about everything. It was as if Johnny was getting the attention Duane wanted or deserved.
Exactly.
And Duane knew he was every bit as good, or if not better, or felt he was comparable.
He was in his own space is good. And
yes,
you're right. And no, they weren't the same kind of slide player, but they were. Duane did see him. I know. I've heard him and his brother were watching. Yeah, I could cut him. And what that means, he could take him. Basically, it's just a good sense of. Just a little sport.
It's how musicians, it's how you measure up sometimes. And when you're talking about money and getting your gigs.
We all like to go play with other. When you play with Jack Pearson, you play nice because he'll just send you off the stage with your tail tucked between your legs. But Jack plays pretty. He plays good. And what I'm saying is he plays well with others.
Yes. Jack, I've said I leave shows with Jack over the years simultaneously wanting to practice and quit all at the same time because it's just so.
He's a great player.
I mean, it is so effortless.
And he's just as great as a human.
A sweet human being.
Well, let's get back into. I'll tell you what. Let's play some Allman Brothers. Let's go to "You Don't Love Me," which would have been the fourth track on the album. I'm not sure how the album was divided up now. I can't remember.
This would be the beginning of side.
That's what I'm thinking.
2.
It would almost be like its own. How many songs are on that?
It's only got 7 songs.
Yeah.
The first 3 we just played is side A. We're about to listen to side B or side 2 of a 4-record set.
All right, let's do it. Let's play "You Don't Love Me." Willie Cobbs. Yeah.
They learned it from Junior Wells.
Yeah.
And here's the deal: about 6-8 months before this song they were still only going about 6 or 7 minutes with this cut. So we're talking 19 minutes
We're
here.
going
By the
19
way,
minutes right now.
First half of the song and second half are 2 different versions. They patched together.
Right.
This is the only 2
I'm
patches,
glad you
no
brought that
edits
up.
on Fillmore East.
Yeah.
So where Dickey picks up to the very end is the second half, the first half, and they were actually 2 different nights too.
Yes, the 12th and the 13th.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go. We're on an adventure right now. "You Don't Love Me," the Allman Brothers Band here on the Lowdown Hoedown D93 Bowling Green's Classic Rock. We just went to church. Allman Brothers Band. You gotta love it. From well, you can correct me. I think it was taken as March 12th and 13th.
Yes.
Spliced together, right?
And the 13th, I think the 13th show is the first half of the song.
That's right.
And the 12th is
You're
the latter
right.
half of the song.
From At Fillmore East, "You Don't Love Me," Allman Brothers Band.
Little joy to the world at the end there. A little seasonal treat for the listeners. We're bringing in some joy during the solstice, the dark winter, bleak midwinter.
We are. Absolutely. And by the way, and I know you folks out there know who the Allman brothers are, but we're just going to tell you is Duane Allman, Greg Allman, Dickey Betts, or Richard Betts, Barry Oakley, and how you pronounce
J.
that?
Johnny Johnson
J. Johnny,
and
okay.
or J-Mo. Yeah, it's a long A, J.
Okay, J. Johnny Johnson and Butch Trucks. And, of course, there's some guest musicians, Thom Doucette. What's his story?
Dude, this is a fascinating story. So Thom plays harp on At Fillmore East and toured with them a lot.
Sure.
There's a lot of tapes with him over the years. He played, we've talked a lot about Atlanta Pop. A friend of the band's who actually had multiple opportunities, or at least one big one, to join the band and chose just to do his own thing. So he gets an appearance on this phenomenal, on At Fillmore East and shines. In fact, I'll tell you this. When you hear the beginning of, I think it's Done Somebody Wrong, it sounds like dogs are barking. At the very beginning, you can hear it. There's two parts. I'm pretty sure that's Doucette blowing it. His mic was hot, and he didn't know it. And he was blowing his, and that's what it sounds like. It's like an overdriven sound because they weren't prepped for that. He was like kind of blowing, and it comes across like that, like barking. It's either that or Greg, the organ stops, or the pedals on the organ.
Sure, man. It's so I was just, is this guy still alive?
He's still kicking. He's a big source in Alan Paul's first Allman Brothers book.
Yeah.
He did a lot.
Yeah.
I think pretty much the most extensive interview I've ever seen with him.
Right.
I think he's in Sarasota now or something, which is also where Dickey is.
Does he play music?
I have not seen. It's funny you say that. I don't think so, but you've just made me think I need to go double check to see that. But Thom Doucette was a running buddy of Duane's. They really spent a lot of time together, and he had a chance to join the band, but he just would rather kind of float in and out. And there's a quote Butch said something like, I always kind of admired him for that he was able to sort of stay where he was. He was digging what he did enough not to join us.
Well, that's right. He's one of the guest musicians. Of course, we could talk about the horn players that played on the first night, and we'll cover that. But I guess there's a Jim Sante or a guy played tambourine supposedly. I don't know where.
Okay, so all right, so at he must have been in Johnny Winter's band or maybe Elvin Bishop's band.
Probably Elvin Bishop's.
So
that's probably right. Probably a Drunken Hearted Boy.
Because I know, for example, that on versions of Liz Reed, Bobby Caldwell of Johnny Winter's band sat in.
That's right.
And Duane was trying to get Bobby Caldwell in the Allman Brothers band.
Yes, he was.
And the band kind of rejected him.
Really?
Did not want. There's also, this is also in Alan's first book, but it's like literally, they were like, Duane should have just gone off and done a power trio with Bobby Caldwell. Like they would have been a great fit, but he wasn't a good fit for the Allman Brothers
I got you.
band.
He was a busier drummer.
And he plays on some of those. We were talking about that full set, Fillmore East. He plays on the earlier versions of Liz Reed with the out of tune horn players.
Gotcha. Of course, Bobby was picked up by Johnny Winter. And when Rick Derringer's brother had a breakdown, Randy Derringer had a breakdown somewhere at some point, and I think Edgar Winter even played drums on a couple of gigs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and maybe even the Atlanta Pop Festival. And then they found Bobby Caldwell. Of course, Bobby left that point. Then he went to form Captain Beyond.
Captain Beyond. Yeah. So he was, another interesting character in this Allman Brother world of music and music
Rhino
makers.
kind of comes in there too.
And by the way, Rhino was in The Second Coming with Barry and Dickey Betts.
That's right.
Like, there's another one. You're like,
and Reese. There
you go, Reese Wynans, who played with you and Kentucky Headhunters and played, more or less the final Allman Brothers show, if you will, the Brothers show at Madison Square Garden right before the pandemic started.
That's right.
Reese anchored stage right. He played the B3 all night beautifully, handled it. I mean, it was stunning how well he fit.
Yeah.
And what a great full circle moment for the band and for him.
Yes.
50-year anniversary after being the guy sitting in that room and knowing that Duane's little brother was coming back. You know, I think everybody knew that in Jacksonville.
Exactly. Yes,
he was
right.
there to help them get started, but once Greg showed up, they didn't need him anymore.
Right. And he went off and done. I guess that when Captain Beyond kind of happened, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think he went out. Rhino joined Iron Butterfly first.
He sure did. Him and Mike Panera. That's an interesting story too. He went from Blues Image. You know, it's so many.
Your knowledge of this, and I'm not blowing any smoke here, is pretty extensive because we can riff on just about any topic here.
Oh man, did you ever check out the Blues Image much? Great band,
the Johnny Winter Blues Image,
Ride Captain Ride
Blues Experiment.
Yes. Ride Captain Ride. The band they were Blues Image. They had there was a club in Florida called The Image.
Yep.
And Mike Panera, and I can't tell you the rest of the guys. Skip Conti, who Skip went later on to join Three Dog Night as second keyboard player. But at some point, Mike Panera gets offered a gig with Iron Butterfly. So him and Rhino take the guitar seats. I guess they're doing some harmony things like the Allman Brothers. But interesting thing about Ride Captain Ride, there's two different solos. The little middle solo was done by a guy named Kent Henry, who was, I'm not sure where he's from, but he may be a Floridian, I'm not really sure. But the screaming solo at the end is Mike Panera. But there's such a little, there was another guitar player out of Florida, I can't think of his name, played with Johnny Winter in the 70s. I just can't think of him right now.
And I should pull it up, but
Floyd Radford. Okay,
but and then of course you also had Stephen Stills from Florida. Right. You had Don Felder and Bernie Ledden, both of the Eagles. Eventually, the Eagles.
That's right.
Graham Parsons is a Floridian.
Yes.
Yes. Tom Petty, of course, a little bit later. In that, man, my home state was just team. And here's the deal.
And RBQ started there.
Who's that?
In RBQ. Are you familiar with them?
I am familiar with them. I did not know they had started.
Well, they started maybe at the Image or somewhere. Now, Terry Adams and Steve Ferguson were from Louisville, and the rest of them are from New York, but they all went to Florida just to find something to do. And that's how they got together.
Interesting. I did not know that. I've done a lot of watching, the Florida scene as it emerged with the almonds. That was an area I paid a lot of attention to study. But, they bounced out of Florida really quickly, with the Allman Joys. Like you said, Greg graduated high school. That was the promise. I don't know if it's the promise Duane made to his mom, but his mom, Geraldine, insisted Greg graduate high school. Duane had dropped out.
Did he graduate from Seabreeze?
Seabreeze High School.
Yeah. Yep. I knew that. Yeah.
And then they took to the road immediately at that point. Came up, this away.
Which one shot themselves in the foot?
That was Greg. Duane. So I've got both of those stories in the book. So Duane actually wore, according to, I think it was Galadriel's book, wore like women's panties and went in to be, like claiming to be gay. And then 2 years later, or the next year when Greg got drafted, he shot himself in the foot. I forget. Duane got out of service for some reason, and it wasn't because they thought he was gay.
They went to military school in Lebanon.
Yes, Lebanon, Tennessee, twice, 2 different stints. In military school. Yeah. Second time Duane ran away from and never went back. He was like 16 or something. I don't know how old.
Oh, my Lord. There's so much to talk about. We'll have to do this again. Tell you what, let me take care of some business. We're going to come back with our Allman Joys psychedelic snack courtesy of the Mellow Mushroom, because we want to give you some really 60s psychedelic. Okay? You listen to Lowdown Hoedown, D93, Bowling Green's classic rock. All right, children, it's time for your psychedelic snack. We know some of you out there have got the munchies, so maybe you want to go to the Mellow Mushroom, So we're going to go back to the year 1966. I don't know as much about the Allman Joys. Maybe you can give a little.
So in 65, they take to the road. 66, they meet up with John D. Loudermilk in Nashville. Tobacco Road.
Yeah.
Tobacco Road was in their set list then and stayed through Hourglass in their set list. And they spent a summer in Nashville under Loudermilk's tutelage and worked up some originals. And then they go out to Bradley's barn and record some demos that end up getting released. Buddy Killen's Dial Records releases them.
Exactly.
And they just flop. And in all honesty, you listen to them. I think you're going to play. One of them is
Gotta Get Away and Spoonful.
Spoonful. Spoonful, the Willie Dixon song done by Howlin' Wolf, and Duane calls it later terrible psychedelic rendition. And the thing is, it's a direct copy almost of Paul Butterfield Blues Band doing it from a blues sampler that came out, I think it's sometime that year.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It was a sampler. It had
Love and Spoonful.
It had the Powerhouse.
Eric Clapton's Powerhouse.
Yes.
That's where they got their version of Crossroads.
What is that little sample? I've got it.
I'll find it actually. That's Crossroads, the version that he does in Cream. The Allman Brothers used that Crossroads version for their version of Crossroads in Allman Joys. That not Cream, Eric Clapton and the Powerhouse.
Gotcha.
So like they had somehow Duane had come up to this record, or they decided to cover these two, Spoonful and Crossroads, and it's there's a decided lack of originality to the arrangements.
Sure.
It sounds very similar to what the others do, and there's a reason it doesn't break.
You could correct me on this, but the members, Greg Allman, Duane Allman, Bob Keller, Bill Connell. There may be some other guys.
There were those. I think those were the dudes who recorded these particular things, and that was the group that took off with them. These were Florida boys, and this was really where they got their start. That you had three choices, a couple choices if you were a Southern musician. Obviously, Nashville's your closest place to go. But what's Nashville home to? Country music. And Duane and Greg don't play country music; they play Southern rhythm and blues.
Right.
So you have New York, Chicago, L.A. So at this point, they've gone to Nashville and failed. They didn't go any further than this.
Right.
This is their first one. When they go to Hourglass, they go to L.A. It's their second.
Yes.
It's actually, Nashville's their first one. Then they do a quick New York stint with the Sandpipers. They actually auditioned for Bob Johnston.
The Sandpipers.
The Sandpipers were an all-female group out of Pensacola that they had joined up with. And
it's not the group that had the records. They had like a hit record in '65, maybe A&M Records or something.
So they ended up. I think they did a. They signed to Trude Heller's label. Trude Heller had a record label, but they had. I think Bob Johnston, like Dylan's producer, they were doing Blonde on Blonde in New York when the Allman Joys backed them up, and they picked up the Sandpipers, but not the Allman Joys. And the Sandpipers didn't end up, they were really young, like early teens, like 16, 14, 15 kind of thing.
The Sandpipers there was a group called the Sandpipers in '66 had a hit. One Guatemala. I can't think how it goes.
It was a girl group, female group?
I'm not sure. We'll look it up.
Okay,
yeah.
Because
The Sandpipers,
I don't know
66.
that they recorded, yeah.
Yeah, this is probably a different group. Well, listen, let's do this. Let's get into our psychedelic snack. This has Got to Get Away. The Allman Joys with Greg and Duane Allman. And this is their psychedelic goodness for you. You're on the Lowdown Hoedown. Tonight, the Allman Joys featuring Greg and Duane Allman. And that's Changing the Guard, which we're trying to figure out. We are thinking Hourglass did it as well, possibly, maybe.
Yeah, I'm having. There's definitely one on an Hourglass album, Changing the Guard. But I'm trying to dig in a little bit deeper.
Think that could be the Hourglass right here.
I mean, yeah. I could just be missing it, and people are listening, going, "You idiot, Bob." No, of course, blah 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 blah. So I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
But I do know What's Shakin' is the name of that compilation with Eric Clapton.
That's right.
And it had Love and Spoonful. It was an Electra compilation.
It was. And the Spoonful were actually signed to Electra for a bit. And then when they went with Kama Sutra, they owed Electra. So they gave the tracks on What's Shakin' were never on any of the Kama Sutra stuff.
So there you go, and that one record gave the Allman Brothers their first two.
That was a big,
Allman Joys, their first two arrangements. The Spoonful that you heard came directly from Paul Butterfield.
That was a big influence, and I missed it in '66, but going back, and that was a big influence on several music. The Powerhouse with Eric Clapton, Steve Winwood, Jack Bruce, and who else played on that? I can't think who else played drums, but they did "Steppin' Out," which John Mayall
was on the Blues Breakers
and
record.
they did a version of Crossroads.
Yep.
And there was another, so I think they had 3
Okay.
songs, but I'm not sure. But
The reason the Crossroads really shocked me was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I know Clapton's version or the Cream version. It's one of the first things I learned on guitar.
Right.
One of the first
Exactly.
things I learned through
Yeah.
on guitar. And I remember going, well, how did Duane come up with this arrangement so early? Because Wheels of Fire didn't come out until 68.
That's
and that's
right.
how I pieced
That's
it, worked
right.
back and said, oh.
yeah, it was a big influence.
Yeah.
All right. So I said we're gonna take care of some more business. When we come back, we're gonna jump back in the Allman Brothers. We've got Hot Lanta coming up next. And then we're gonna delve into In Memory of Elizabeth Reed.
Awesome.
And we're just gonna keep going till we don't have no more time. We'll just play Allman Brothers all night. I don't think nobody's gonna complain about that.
I'm not gonna.
Me neither, man. And Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you're doing well out there. We'll be right back. Got to take care of this business, you know. Welcome back to the Lowdown Hoedown. I'm Brother Greg Martin, and Bob Beatty is here with me tonight. And, Play All Night, the book. Tell me. We got 2 minutes. Tell a little bit about. We're gonna.
Well, you know, and I know we're leading into Hot Lanta, or do you want me to do a second bumper to Hot Lanta here?
Yeah, talk about Hot
So
Lanta.
the Hot Lanta is the only band co-write, only full band co-write. This was something that they threw together. They did, I think, like a lot. It's hard to figure out what is a song versus an arrangement, but that's a song that they wrote together. The only album this song appeared on was At Fillmore East. They never recorded it in the studio.
What a great song!
It is a fantastic song and just a gorgeous, you know, instrumental. It always stayed about that same length, about 6 minutes.
Yeah.
It's got the best of the band, like solos, ensemble, playing incredible drums. And but you know, this album was a live record. It was their make or break. They were going to break up the band. Phil Walden had several $100,000 invested in them, as did Atlantic Records and Jerry Wexler, and they were very frustrated that the band hadn't sold. And so they put out this live record. It was 100% live, no overdubs. And this is one of those cuts, and the whole record, you know, it hit gold in a matter of about 6 weeks.
Oh, it's
Blew them into epic. We would not be talking today. Duane's life would be an afterthought with his motorcycle accident. You know, if they hadn't recorded.
That's right.
I actually not as much. I think he would still be talked about, but in a whole different way.
Yeah.
If you just stopped with his output through 1970.
Right. This is where his sound really.
This was his vision. This is his artistic masterpiece.
Well, let's jump into it. I have to do a top of the hour, but we're going to go into Hot Lanta. Then ahead of that, we have Elizabeth Reed.
There you go.
All right, you listen to Lowdown Hoedown, D93. What do you think about that? Allman Brothers Band, you're on the Lowdown Hoedown, D93, Bowling Green's classic rock from At Fillmore East, released July 6, 1971. We just heard In Memory of Elizabeth Reed and Hot Lanta. So, what do you got to say about those tracks?
Well, you know, I said a little bit about Hot Lanta earlier. Liz Reed is probably the classic instrumental of the Allman Brothers Band, who has a string of them. I mean, Dickie Betts has been writing instrumental classics, or was for his whole life. He wrote them. And Liz Reed is the first song he brought to the band. Revival and Liz Reed kind of come at the same time, but Liz Reed was first, I guess. Revival also started out as an instrumental, and then they added lyrics to it. Okay. But you know, this shows their jazz side for sure. This is them, or at least, you know, Dickey attempting some kind of blue. You know, they were listening to a lot of that stuff, a lot of jazz, a lot of modal jazz, and so. You know, Dickey comes up with this super haunting melody named for a tombstone at Rose Hill Cemetery, where, you know, it's named for a woman, named for Carmela Skaggs, Boss Skaggs' wife/girlfriend. I don't know if they had been married yet. Dickey was married, and they were having an affair and would meet up in Rose Hill. And Dickey wrote this, you know, gorgeous instrumental. Okay. I just put this up on my Substack at Long Live the ABB.
Yeah, please tell people how.
It's
please, how can they?
www.longlivetheabb.com is my Substack newsletter, and it's basically it's what we call a blog these days. We call it a newsletter.
Sure.
But I just wrote this piece on this. I don't know. It was a couple of weeks ago. I posted it, but Elizabeth Jones Reed Napier was the daughter-in-law of probably one of the more prominent men of Macon, whose last name was Napier, and I can't remember his first name. Super long story short, her father, her grandfather-in-law was one of the richest men there and a major slave owner and big supporter of the Confederate cause. Actually, her and her father-in-law both.
Okay.
So they had money all through this era, lost a lot of it when slavery was made illegal and sort of start over. But the story I want to tell is she died in her daughter's home, a stone's throw from the big house, like literally in the same neighborhood.
Wow.
Right there, like her house is here and the big house. It's just the weirdest, all these little coincidences that come up to me.
And if you're wondering what the big house is, that's where the Allman Brothers lived.
It was their communal home from 1970, really throughout through 1970, 71, 72, and then after Barry died, they left it, and that's now a museum in Macon, and really kind of the Macon remains the home of the Allman Brothers, history, lore, legacy, and everything.
I always enjoy going to Macon. My son Eric, who's in the other room, Eric, do you remember being in Macon years ago and going to a graveyard? You remember what year that was?
1999.
That was the first time we went to Rose Hill.
Yeah.
And that's when you could actually go to Barry and Duane's grave and just spend some time there.
Yeah, at that point. And we've talked about Johnny Winter. There are pictures of Johnny Winter there sitting playing guitar, sitting on Duane's grave. Yeah, and things have changed there. You know, it's got a whole plot. Greg apparently bought a lot of plots, and there's enough for all 6 of the original guys if they want to be there, buried there. There's a marker for Butch. I don't know if Butch's actual ashes are there or his, but Greg's there, Duane now, and Barry. It used to be, hey, let's go see Duane and Barry, but now it's go see the Allman plot, which is right around the corner from Liz Reed and just down the railroad tracks from where some early album cover photographs were taken.
Yes, I love the picture where Barry looks like, yeah, right. It's amazing. But I wonder if J-Mo and Dickey will be buried there.
You know, I don't know. I had heard a rumor that was the case, that they had all agreed to do that or that they had wanted to. I genuinely don't know, and that those kind of things can change, at a moment's notice.
Yeah, sure.
It would be, for us fans, it would certainly be fitting, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
This great band who in many ways defines band for a lot of us, certainly does for me. Right. All for one in a greater service to a greater cause.
I'll tell you what we need to do. We need to play. We got one more song on the album to play.
Buckle in.
Yeah, we're going to play Whipping Post now.
And let me say real quick, one reason why this album is successful, I think, back to the Johnny Winter thing. So the Allman Brothers were the middle band on a 3-band bill. Elvin Bishop, Allman Brothers, Johnny Winter. It was a 3-night run.
Yes.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, 11th, 12th, and 13th of March. The 11th seemed like it was a dress rehearsal run. There's no tapes that exist of it. After that show, Johnny Winter's manager said, well, apparently so many people left after the Allman Brothers set that Johnny Winter said, we're not doing that again as manager. And they switched slots. So the Allman Brothers closed Friday night and Saturday night. And that's why you have all of this expansion, and they could take Whipping Post and play it for 22 minutes. So
there's one show that was not recorded then, right?
The first two. So, yeah, I don't think they were recorded, and I've got some reasons for that. Barry makes a stage announcement that says we recorded 4 shows. A week later, he says we recorded 4 shows. Okay. So that means it's Friday and Saturday. Of
course, Duane says, what's he say? You can go home now or something.
Yeah, we can be there all night with you is what he says.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You know the tape. You know what I'm talking about.
I love it. There was something else hit me, but you keep going. It'll come back.
I mean, the bottom line is, Johnny Winter had the 90-minute plus slot because, playing late into Friday night or late into Saturday night at Fillmore East was fine. There was no, into early Saturday morning, early Sunday morning, or early Monday morning, no big deal. So it was, but for the Allman Brothers, they got to completely stretch out. Yeah. And they are much more comfortable in that setting.
The
bulk of that album was recorded on the last.
It was written in Rolling Stone, right, about that show, or one of them where they when the people left, it was light outside, right?
Yeah, so there were a couple different shows where they had one of these two. I think it was the late night on Saturday. They had a bomb scare, so they all went out. And they came back in, so the show was, even that much longer.
Oh, wow.
And then the final show at Fillmore East what you're talking about was, they walked outside and it was light outside and everybody, you know how it is when you leave a movie theater.
It was like a church service.
Yes,
Everybody was real
exactly
somber. Yeah. Well, let's jump into
this. Is the psychedelic masterpiece. Although the song we won't hear, Mountain Jam, after this is also a psychedelic masterpiece. And shout out to all my fellow mountain jammers out there. That's you're my people.
This is great, man. Okay, this is Whipping Post. 22 minutes?
22 plus. Buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up, kids. Well, there you go. The Allman Brothers Band, Whipping Post from At Fillmore East. What can I say? We played the whole album.
The whole album.
We certainly did. I don't think I've ever done. Well, I've played a lot of Allman Brothers on the show, but I don't think I've ever done the whole album before. And again, Duane Allman, Greg Allman, Dickie Betts, Barry Oakley, J. Johnson, J. Johnny.
Yes.
Yeah, I keep wanting to say Johanny.
Everybody says it.
Okay.
Everybody.
Good.
And they also say Johansson, too. And it's no, J. Johnny Johnson is how Duane says it at the end of the next track.
There you go.
Mountain Jam.
There you go.
That's how I learned it.
And Butch Trucks. And released July 6, 1971, recorded in March that year. So anything you want to add to that?
You know, look, this is the thing. Those last two tracks we played are the only two songs on the album that the Allman Brothers had previously released. Liz Reed had come out on Idlewild South in 1970, a very truncated version of Whipping Post in 1969 in the debut. And I think had they not switched slots with Johnny Winter, you know, there's a good chance those two songs wouldn't have been on this record. And it still would have been a fantastic record.
Sure.
But that, you know, that Liz Reed is transcendent, that Whipping Post, you know, and I think the other thing I want to say about both of those and Hot Lanta, the classical music influence, I think gets a lot of times it gets overlooked, and it's real strong, and it's across the board. Dickey shares it, but it's really Butch. Butch loved that. And we talked earlier about dynamics and the swells and Butch moving over to the timpani. I know there were probably other bands bringing timpani around, but not that many.
No.
And there are multiple songs when he's doing that. Hot Lanta, Whipping Post, Mountain Jam. So, I mean, it's just something that they did so much bigger.
So musical.
Yes.
It's such a musical
So much bigger than rock and roll.
Exactly. Well, let me take care of some business. When we come back, we'll play Trouble No More, and maybe we can get One Way Out. We'll try to get One Way Out.
I'll be truncated. I'll be sure. My friends are laughing as I say that right now.
You are listening to Lowdown Hoedown D93 Bowling Green's Classic Rock. Thank y'all for hanging on this adventure tonight, because it's been a great adventure. Hey, welcome back to the Lowdown Hoedown. We don't have much time here, so we're going to say good night. God bless each and every one of you. Bob Beatty, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, how can they get in touch with you? Tell them one more time about
Long Live the ABB on all the socials, Facebook, the artist formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Threads, everything else. LongLiveTheABB.com on Substack. Play All Night is the name of the book. Please get that on Amazon.
And long live the Allman Brothers Band. And I'll tell you, I love the original version, but there's some magic.
The whole thing is worth it.
It's beautiful. Hopefully this is one way out. It's one way out of this show. Good night.
Y'all have a good one.
See ya.